For generations, the antique jewellery world was one of word of mouth, closely guarded knowledge, and reputations earned quietly over decades. Now there's a new kind of dealer emerging. Visually fluent, digitally native, and building taste in public. Today we're joined by the Jewel Geek to talk about what it means to develop your eye in this new era and how best to balance aesthetics, instinct, and the realities of the trade. Brinder, you're very welcome to Gem Pursuit this morning and to Ireland. I think it's your first time you've been to this island. How are you finding it so far?
It's great. I mean, it's just been a day so far, but it's a homely, sort of warm environment and atmosphere. So I'm really, really sort of pleased to be here and to be seeing jewellery during my first visit to Ireland, yeah.
We were looking through the shop yesterday and you just picked out some of the gemmiest pieces in an instant. I can see you've got a great eye for it. How did you arrive to this point that you're now an antique jewellery dealer?
Well, I always liked fashion, and naturally when you like fashion, you always sort of come across jewellery. But that was sort of more contemporary jewellery brands like, Bulgari, Cartier, you're always exposed to that. I was actually a medical student, so that's my background. So I went to medical schools with hopes that I would become a doctor one day. It was quite natural for me because I loved STEM. And I also loved, at the time, the thought of being a doctor. But that quickly, my sort of wishes and hopes for my career as a doctor changed when I got to university. That's when I quickly realized the realities of being a medical student and how strenuous and how, full on it really was. And I quickly realized it wasn't for me. And then it was once I actually had left my course, that's when I began to be more exposed to jewelry. And that was actually through auctions. So I really enjoyed going to auction viewings in London, or just following auctions online and looking out for well-priced things, but not just jewelry. It was sort of across the board. It was signed letters, artwork, anything that would sort of interest me. So if it was sort of signed letters, I might look out for something that might have some Indian inspiration to it. That would always interest me. Jewelry would always come out to me, would speak to me, or would be interested in it. And I was coming across more and more antique jewelry. And at the time, I wasn't that well versed in different time periods, different styles of jewelry. So that's where I began to actually learn and ask questions and develop a sense of yearning for learning about antique jewelry. It really came through going to auction houses and following different auctions online.
I was similar. I was studying to be an accountant, but then when I was actually faced with the reality of it, I was like, it's fine. It's very important, but it's just not quite my calling. Or you just know deep down, you just know these things, right? What made you kind of zone in on the jewelry? Was there a particular piece, or was there a moment that you got something and that was the kind of the catalyst that led to a wider interest?
Well, the first jewelry piece I actually went through with was from a Bonham sale, and they had a collection of jade and diamond rings in their auction, and they were quite, at the time, what I thought was well priced, and a lot of them had no reserve, and I hadn't heard of that before. I thought, no reserve, that's crazy. You could buy something for a fraction of its real price.
And these were jade and diamond in gold or platinum?
Yeah.
Right.
They were like sort of cluster rings, most of them. But they were pretty, and they were all sort of Class A jadeite, all GA certified. So I thought, okay, I can trust this. I bought one ring, which was a jade and diamond cluster ring. The reason why I bought it was they were going for significantly more online. But at the time, what I didn't realize that a dealer is never going to buy something from you at a retail price. So that price I was seeing online was, of course, a retail price. It's not a price I could get on the open market when I'm going to a dealer or putting something, when you're putting something in auction, for example. So yeah, that was something that I think I did overpay for it completely, but it was a learning curve to sort of understand that, prices you're seeing online are not the prices you can get on the secondhand market, because that sort of, if a retail customer comes in, and at the time, obviously, I didn't have any retail customers. I was just planning to sell it to a dealer or a shop.
I remember looking at some of your earlier content, and you have great interest in antique.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I remember you had a great interest in antique books as well, and learning. And you mentioned to asking questions. What role does the study and the antique books play? Are you still actively trying to acquire those?
Yeah, I think books are such a great resource for someone starting out in antique jewelry. For me, when I was starting off, the way I learned was textbook learning, and also going in person to auction viewings, and then being able to touch and handle jewelry. So it was the sort of amalgamation of the two things. But books are so important because, there's only so much time a dealer or a historian can give to you. You're not going to go into a shop and then ask them to give you a whole lecture on Victorian jewelry. They don't have the time for that. So that's why you've got to learn from a textbook, really take time out to learn from different pieces of literature as well, because different books give different examples of jewelry, and have slight nuances in what details they give, and some are more detailed than others. I think when you're starting off, you need to buy books which are somewhat more entry level. So ones that maybe just have a brief description of each time period, compared to, buying a book which is completely, like 300 pages on Georgian jewelry, for example.
In French.
Yeah, in French. Yeah. Because you'll really struggle there to
baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. Yeah. So first, just learn across the board, and then start honing in on what you like, and then maybe buying books for that particular time period that you are most interested in.
How would you say your taste has changed in the 3 years, or has it changed?
Well, I just buy finer things now, because you realize what's poor quality, what's good quality in terms of selling to the trade. Because at the end of the day, everyone has their own tastes in antique jewelry. Something that you like, another person might absolutely adore. But when it comes to selling to the trade, there's certain pieces which are just across the board better quality and more desirable. So, just as an example, in 2023, I was seeing a lot of convertible tiaras, or just tiaras in general, in auctions. What I didn't realize at the time was that, the pieces which are more diamond heavy and where the settings are lighter, those are more sort of sought after, compared to those which have like really clunky, chunky metal settings, and the stones are small, and poor quality. And, because to me, I was just excited about seeing tiaras and thinking, oh, these are cool. These,
A tiara is a tiara.
Yeah,
a tiara.
yeah, they're just fascinating things. But if you're really collecting them, or, selling them, you pay attention to really, really tiny details, or even looking for examples of repair or sort of damage to a piece. So now I've really refined my ability to buy something. And also now I'm able to buy more confidently. When I was buying in 2023, if I was buying a signed piece, for example, there was always that hesitation I had as to, the authenticity of the piece. So, for example, when I was buying a lot of Cartier things in 2023, I would take them to the Cartier boutique and then have them do a light polish on it, just to get some paperwork to sort of confirm that it is buy Cartier because Cartier wouldn't touch a piece if it's not, from their house. But now I don't need to do that because now I know by looking at the sort of signature, the marks, the inventory numbers, and able to decipher, is this Cartier or is this not,
And I remember I sold a Cartier brooch, Cartier London, and it had 4 square sapphires in it. Bigger ones, maybe half a carat each, and then little ones, velvety sapphires, and platinum, very deco. And I remember I wasn't sure of the provenance, and I sold it to somebody. I took like a tiny turn on it, just sold it. And I'm just thinking back to myself now, I've seen that Cartier London signature many times.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh no, I just gave it away basically. But good luck to them. They got a deal, right? But I think I can totally get what you're saying. Your taste develops and you get experience, I guess. So there's always a phrase you hear people in the trade, they say, a good eye, a good eye for jewellery. Do you think that's something instinctive or can you learn it?
I think a lot of the times it is instinctive, but you can learn it. I mean, for me, my eye really developed when I started to build and forge relationships with different dealers, because I would understand what they wanted and what they were looking to buy. And a lot of times that applies to most dealers. A lot of times they're looking for similar things. So whether that's really sort of gemmy pieces, really unusual forms of craftsmanship, that's when I started to become more selective with the things I was buying, was when I started to get to know dealers a bit better, and they would let me know what is selling well for them and what isn't. And knowing what isn't selling well is important as well, because then to avoid those things. Otherwise, you'll just be stuck with them for a long period of time until someone comes along. And
do you have any of those pieces in your collection?
I do. I have quite a few of them. One of them is a piece which I wear so often. It's a lapel watch, which I love. It comes in its fitted box. It's a tiny watch, usually small, that you can just put on your lapel as a brooch. So it'll usually be a watch that's suspended from a bar brooch. Okay. And that's the one I have. It's beautiful. It's in platinum. It's set throughout with really white round cut diamonds and baguette cut diamonds. They're really, really nice. And it comes in its original box by the Goldsmiths and Silversmiths company. And yes, I did slightly overpay for it, but at the same time, it isn't something that, a dealer looks at and it's like, I need that, So I'm happy to keep it because I love it so much and I wear it so often. But it's one of those things which is a bit, harder to move and sell. Whereas if you get, I don't know, 5 carat Bermano heat clustering, you'll sell that same day.
That lapel watch is a fantastic piece of jewellery. Yes. But for every lapel watch buyer, there's probably 20 or 100 5 carat Burmese. Yeah. But it's nothing, they're both equal quality.
Yeah. The quality is there. The quality is there on both of them. It's just about how desirable and collectible, or how much demand there really is,
But to the right person, this is like going to be unpassable. I cannot wait to see that lapel watch. You have to show it to me one day.
It's wonderful. I'm just waiting for that again, that one person who understands it, who might collect it, I haven't found that collector yet, but they might come from this
they might be
podcast and say, send me pictures of that.
Rinder is a great pursuer of fine gems. So if anyone would like a lapel watch, we will get your details at the end and they know how to contact you, okay? But it sounds really beautiful. And the box, a fitted box, it's almost a craft that's being lost. And I think in our trade, there is a lot of crafts that take so long to learn. And sometimes I've seen these older craftspeople who have these incredible talents and they've no one taking on the trade, they've no one learning it. And I'm in awe of people like this.
Yeah, I've come across quite a few actually. I knew this guy, his name was if I remember it correctly, Bill Mundy, and I went to his studio. He does miniature portraits. He's no longer around anymore, but he was extremely talented in what he did. And I remember he was writing his book before he passed, and his work was of such exceptional caliber. And he could paint on ivory, but that was more difficult now, with the restrictions. So the majority of the work he would do was on vellum, and that. So completely in the traditional style, he would be painting on vellum, and it was so intricate and so fine. And then there's people, I know there's a company in Germany who do cameos, which I'm recently so obsessed with, and Essex crystal jewelry, which is so hard to find someone who can really do that, create modern Essex crystals. But we're losing that. We're really losing these fine craftsmen, and it's something that more and more young people should be getting into, learning these crafts in as a hobby. I think it's harder for me to say, go and make a living out of creating Essex crystals. That would be I think a bit optimistic of
could
me
evolve
to say.
into that.
Yeah, it could evolve, but I think having that as a hobby is a really, really I think valuable thing to do, because it could eventually develop into a full-time career.
But like in the UK, in Britain, and in Ireland, there is a tradition of having these great trades, these skilled artisans who can create these things. And I think it's so important that these trades are not lost and they're protected, because when you see the quality of these old pieces, and it's not just Essex crystal, as you said, we mentioned others, enamelers, goldsmiths even, there's a dearth of quality goldsmiths around the place. There's people who can do 3D CADing, of course, but to actually have the skills with your hands to make these pieces, I think it's something that should be looked at.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of time these, like you mentioned, these goldsmiths, they don't like the attention and they don't like being online. So a lot of times it's so hard to find them. It's sort of like when you're in the trade, you'll come across all of these different people, but you realize that, if I wasn't in the trade, I probably would have never heard of them, because they're so discreet and just off online, social media, website. A lot of them don't even have any of these things. They just sort of, it's completely by word of mouth.
But isn't that the thing? That mindset where you are very meticulous in what you make and you're very creative, you can't even get into this world of thinking about doing online content. It's like an antithesis of personality, and yet they're the things that people would love to see. And I want to just give you a quick example, because you reminded me of something there, Brinder. When I had started, I took over the reins at Courtville in 20, how's my mental arithmetic, 2018, and I was looking for a gemstone polisher for years. And I was like, there's no gemstone polisher. Then I talked to my dad one day, who has got a business around the corner. He goes, oh, do you not just talk to John? And I said, sorry, what do you mean? Did I not just talk to John? He goes, oh yeah, John's a lapidator. He only works around the corner. And I went in, and lo and behold, on the 4th floor of a building, just around the corner from me here, just off Grafton Street, there's a lapidar. Oh. And he doesn't have a website, doesn't have an Instagram, doesn't do anything like that. And it's just word of mouth. And I went into him, and he's a fantastic lapidator. He actually is retired now, though. I think if we just step back for a second and go to the opposite end of the scale, on the new people and the younger generation entering the world of antiques, and specifically antique jewellery. You're in it 3 years now, and you have a fantastic social media, Brenda, if I can say so, right? I think it's really interesting content. I mean, you travel around a bit. How important do you think the content is in the antiques jewellery business today?
For me, it was imperative, I think, and it goes hand in hand with the dealing, because initially, the reason why I actually started the Jewel Geek was because when I was dealing, I oftentimes found that, um, when you're a new face or also you're a younger face, they take a bit of time to sort of trust you, to also, build that relationship. But when you have an online presence and you go to someone for the first time, a dealer for the first time, and you introduce yourself, they already know you because they're like, oh, I've seen your video. You've already crossed that barrier of, you know, being like, oh, hi, who are you? What's your name? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
They
not
just,
familiarity, but
yeah.
the initial trust is there, maybe.
Yes, yeah, the initial trust is there because they're like, this guy has, done videos with people I know. There's that, and that was one of the reasons I started the Jewel Geek was so that I had a brand image where people could trust me, people could see that, I'm learning. I know about different topics. I do have refined knowledge of antique jewelry, and um, the content creation did wonders for that. And at the same time, it's allowed me to meet people who I probably would have not met before. So a lot of dealers in Europe, a lot of dealers that I meet at the jewelry shows now, and I potentially would have never met them if I maybe had not done the content creation. So it's been a wonderful tool for me. Social media and content creation has been so important for me, definitely.
What's your favorite element then of dealing, right? So you're doing your social media, which is great. It's our first podcast here. Like, what do you wake up to in the morning and just look forward to getting stuck into?
It's always looking for things that people are asking for a lot of. Right now I have so many people asking for Georges L'Enfant. So it's me sort of going on the hunt and looking for Georges L'Enfant pieces, which are actually incredibly hard to find. So, a lot of times I have dealers and even some, collectors who might say, if you ever find this, please let me know. But I become ridiculously obsessed with it. I'll be thinking about it every day. I need to find this, because it's there, it's somewhere. There's that, there's probably a beautiful Georges L'Enfant chunky chain somewhere. I just need to, find it.
When you get bitten by the bug in this business, that's a specific piece you're looking for, but it's just, I find it just you get more and more interest, which I think is such a great business to be in. But Georges L'Enfant pieces, for anyone who hadn't heard of Georges L'Enfant, he's a goldsmith, but he's very well known for a certain type of jewelry, right? Gold chains, kind of woven textures. I remember a while ago, I did a fair in Parma in Italy, and I had this Georges L'Enfant piece, right? If I remember correctly, it was 170 grams, I think, or 150, or like high, tipping towards 200, right? And I hadn't really done too much research on Georges L'Enfant. I knew it was important, and it's Georges L'Enfant for VCA. So anyway, I sold it at the fair straight away, but like I could have sold it 10 times. But Georges L'Enfant, what makes his pieces special for you?
I mean, for me, it's, you can look at something and so distinctively know that it's Georges L'Enfant. Like with his pieces, they're so distinctly him. I mean, it's so hard with these specialized makers to be able to identify the pieces so easily, which is what I love about his work. And it's always of the sort of highest quality and of the highest caliber when it comes to gold jewelry. I also love other specialized makers like Andre Vasseur and Henri Pique. But at the moment, for some reason, Georges L'Enfant is just really hot. And is more desirable. Who knows? At the end of the year, people might be saying, oh, I want Henri Pique pieces. That might be the next thing where everyone is saying, I'm looking for this. So it's just like it all depends on the sort of trends at the time. And I don't know what underpins that, but
You can see it happening in
Yeah,
front of you.
yeah, but I'm seeing it.
Do you think we should focus on more quality in smaller pieces, or kind of do you prefer like big pieces?
I think at the moment, what I'm seeing is people are focusing a lot more on the quality. I think when people aren't, sort of buying like crazy, buying left, right, and center, then they become more selective and then they look for the sort of better quality pieces. So even myself, when I'm buying, I'm not actually looking for the biggest stone. I might have let's say a 5 carat Colombian emerald in front of me and then a 2 carat Colombian emerald, but that 2 carat might be set in a ring which is just so unusual. It could be a serpent with a heart suspended from it. I'd much rather prefer that because that's such an unusual design and shape compared to maybe just a 5 carat in a plain band. So they're both beautiful things, but I would rather jump towards something that has a design which I'm never seen before. Or those earrings we were looking at yesterday with the interchangeable stones, that's so unusual to me. But if that ring was just, let's say, a trois et moi, I'll be like, okay, that's really cool. That's a timeless piece. But where I'm, sort of like, oh, this is cool, was because of that mechanism.
Yes. Made it stand apart. Yeah, that's so important. And I think that goes with the time. For me anyway, when I started, you would be sidetracked. I would be. I was like, oh, that's a big stone. But the more you go, and the color in the emeralds, I just want to talk about emeralds for a second because I know I'm very passionate about them, and I can see by the ring on your pinky finger, Brinder, that you like emeralds too.
Yeah.
It's just like the intensity of the color, that's what attracts me to a stone. And I think that's what you're saying, the 2 carat emerald, it's got that life in it. And I think if you're looking at colored gemstones, remembering that it's the quality of the color and the intensity, that's where you'll get the enjoyment from it.
Yes, definitely. And also, touching on that point again of, I'm meeting different dealers, different people when I go on my travels and so on. And, recently I've been meeting more loose stone dealers. And I know in the trade, we have mixed opinions on loose stone dealers because they're always in your DM saying, we're
always. I know.
Yeah, they're always in your DMs.
But I'm not sure whether sometimes these are like, I've just landed on a great supplier or it's spam.
Or
sometimes.
It's spam, yeah.
It's spam, is it?
Yeah, a lot of the time it's spam. But I've been meeting a lot of them recently.
Right.
And that's really helped me in deciphering the sort of quality and price per carat of an emerald, and then applying that to when I'm buying antique jewelry. So that's really helped me in deciphering what is a really, really good quality, exceptional, rare stone compared to what might be a good stone. So becoming even more refined, that's helped. Building those relationships with these loose stone dealers has really helped in becoming even more selective with what I'm, choosing and buying. And this emerald in front of me, I absolutely adore. It's just a really fine gemmy emerald. And I think like a loose stone dealer would also agree.
I couldn't give that to a loose stone dealer.
But you couldn't.
I just they'd pull it apart. It just would be a shame.
No. You wouldn't want to sell this to them because you know what they will do. Even though they might buy it and say, we're going to keep it like this, they will just rip it apart.
They will. And I remember I was at a Miami Beach show. I had this beautiful cat's eye chrysoberyl.
Ooh.
But I mean, it was so gemmy.
Yeah.
Brinder.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute crystal. The cat's eye was right in the middle and it was so good. And there was a dealer, an Indian dealer, who came up to me, and next minute later, there was 4 Indian dealers, his colleagues, right?
Yeah.
All looking at it, and they were like, how much do you want for it? And I said, X price, whatever it was.
Yeah.
They offered me half. And then eventually we worked it up, we got to a price. and they bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally, right in front of me, just went, popped the stone out.
Oh my
And they just
gosh.
said, would you take $1,000 off if we gave you the setting back?
Yeah.
I was in complete shock. But do you collect any jewelry yourself? I know you said you've got your lapel watch, which is sort of stock, sort of for sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do you collect any jewelry yourself? And if so, why do you collect it?
Yes, I do. I have this wonderful Victorian serpent necklace. It's fully articulated, and the head is set with these lovely, well-matched cabochon turquoises, and the eyes are set with garnets. The head has a natural saltwater pearl. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
lovely.
I bought that 3 years ago at auction, and I obviously don't wear it as a necklace because I don't wear necklaces, but I wrap it around my wrist and wear it as a bracelet. So that because it's long enough, so it twists around my arm and I can wear it as a bracelet.
Twice around your...
Yes, yeah. And you just sort of slot the clasp into the mouth. And I kept that for myself because I bought it well, so I didn't put too much money into it. And also because it's one of those pieces that, one should have, because serpents... the serpent is such a common motif in Victorian jewelry, and I think it's good to have one of those pieces in your collection. And what else? We have that watch, and then I have this really rare paste or rock crystal. I haven't tested it or anything. Paror. It has this wonderful choker and a pair of earrings, and the choker has this dove which is suspended from it, and the craftsmanship is exceptional on it because each link on the necklace is detachable. There's 3 components on each ear clip. They're all detachable, so you can wear like something just as a stud. You can wear the thing suspended from it, the element suspended from it.
That sounds incredible.
It's so unusual.
Wow.
The box is amazing. It's a red leather and gold box, and I kept that because I just couldn't part with it. It was so lovely. And then I have this piece here, which I was thinking of selling after I'd, done a bit more research on the cameo, but I've just worn it a lot. I wore it at the jewelry show in Munich. I've worn it here. And I'm just like, it fits me. And
I would say that looks like just like it was there forever in a way. Like it almost grew onto you like that.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll part with this. I'll probably just keep this, I think. It's because it fits me quite well.
Can I have a look? Let me just see. It's
I want to figure out who exactly it is. I've had differing opinions on it. Some seem to think it's a male goddess. People seem to think it's a male god or female goddess, a Greek goddess. I've had someone say they think it's Dionysus or Hera, but it's unusual.
to me, yeah, it could kind of be male, female. It's a beautiful carved emerald, and the ring, it's a lovely heft to it.
That's what I like. It's because and it has the French marks because the mount is late 19th century. The cameo is most likely late 17th century, and it's in really good condition. And I bought it well, and that's why, again, it's if I'd put a lot of money into it, then I would be more inclined to sell it, because I would say, oh, okay, I can then buy something else. But with this one, I bought it well, so I wasn't in a rush to sell. But now I've been wearing it so much, I thought, let me potentially keep it. So actually, with a lot of sort of my rings in my own collection, or brooches in my own collection, it's pieces that I've worn, and then I'm like,
That's
I
really
like
nice.
wearing
That's
it,
really nice.
and don't want to part with it. Or on the other side, it's something like, something that hasn't sold in the trade, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll keep it. Why not? Yeah, I'll wear it.
But I know you mentioned like brooches, Brinder, and I just see you don't have one on today, which is a shame.
Yes,
Like it's a
it
real
is.
shame.
It
So
is a shame.
just we have another bit to talk about, but I just want to make sure you're not bereft of a brooch. So I'll give you a
Yes.
little gift from Gem Pursuit,
Okay.
a little brooch that you can have a look at.
have a
Well, I just
look.
gave it away what it is, but anyway,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
because especially St. Patrick's Day is coming up as well, so. It's only something small, and hopefully it'll sit in your personal collection for a little while.
Ah, that is cool. It's a clover. That's lovely. Very fully hallmarked. It's lovely.
Clover is an Irish symbol and typically brings you good luck. So I know you have lots of great projects that you're going to be working on, so I'm sure it'll bring you a bit of luck with them.
Yeah, very cool. It's such a, and it's so finely detailed. Such a cool thing.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
carved by hand. And
Beautiful.
what do you think really sets jewellery apart to other things?
I think it's so diverse. I mean, it's crazy how diverse it is. Like you have, people who might like one time period over the other. People who like particular types of jewelry, like, someone might have an extensive collection of brooches, but they might not buy any other piece of jewelry. Or someone might have a really strong collection of signet rings. It's so diverse. And I think it appeals to everyone. Whether you're, a man, a woman, even if you're a dog, you can, have a piece of jewelry. It appeals to everyone. And it's universal, it's international. Every culture has their own jewelry history. Every country has their own jewelry history. It's so there's a link to everyone, and it explains a lot about our past and what was going on during different periods of time, because a lot of time what was going on socially, politically, that was reflected really, really well in the jewelry. And that's where the sort of storytelling element comes in. It tells a story a lot of times. Jewelry pieces, they are capsules of people's stories and your different periods of time.
You're based in London in the UK.
Yeah.
And you are from India.
Yes.
Because I've read loads of books about the Maharaj, and they have such an interest in jewelry and gemstones. Gemstones in particular, the finest of the finest is what the Maharaj has had an interest in. Do you think that has influenced your taste in jewelry?
I don't think it's influenced my taste in jewelry, but what it has done is when I do find a piece in a shop which is, a gigantic Mughal carved emerald, I will jump towards it and really be fascinated by it and drawn to it. And I've had that actually in shops before, and the dealer was like, I see why you're so drawn to it, because it has that Indian influence and in Indian sort of history to it. So it does underpin what I'm interested in, but I don't think it really impacts my personal taste in jewelry. No. Because my taste in jewelry is so wide ranging. Yeah. Although I do have one brooch in my collection. It's a brooch in the shape of a kanja, a dagger.
Wow.
It's like a miniature.
Oh, is that the dagger that kind of turns up at the end?
Yeah.
Yes.
A miniature sort of dagger. And
it kind of roughly sits on your lapel sort of size. Okay.
It's really nice. And it's got different gemstones to the front. It's got turquoise, coral, lapis, emeralds, and to the back it's got really fine enamel work. It's a nice piece, and I bought that because I thought, oh, that's cool. I've seen that a lot in Indian sort of costume jewelry, weddings and stuff. And when I found it in, 18 karat gold with, really fine gemstones, I thought, I have to have this. And the dealer who was selling it, I don't think had a lot of Indian clients, so that it was priced very well. So I got away with a good deal there. And because I saw the value in it.
Is there any piece, would you say, that you came across, you saw it, that you just regret not buying, that sticks with you and you go, if I was there again, I would have gone for it?
I mean, it happens all the time with auctions. You forget to put something on your calendar that this auction's happening. And you look at the results after and you'll think, shit, that was such a good price and I missed out completely, especially with the smaller auction houses. And that is a real sinking feeling.
As a man who told me that he doesn't need an alarm clock to wake up now, that must be very frustrating.
It is. It's so frustrating when you've missed an auction and it's something that didn't go for what you thought it would have gone for. But in terms of regretting, oh yes, it happened to me at a show recently. It was at a jewelry show and I was one of the sort of first people in, and there was a dealer who had a pair of really substantial, large Van Cleef. There's a pair of Van Cleef and Arpels brooches modeled as flowers in 18 karat yellow gold with, I think it was brilliant cut diamonds to the center. And I remember seeing that, and I was going to ask the price, but I thought, let me have another walk around. As I was leaving that stand, another dealer comes in and starts asking the price, and I heard the price, and I think it was half of what I would have been willing to pay for it. And I thought, oh, I have to. I was just waiting for that dealer to go, and then I would have.
You lost your spot though.
She took it. She said, put it on the side for me. And yeah, then I had that sinking feeling. I said, I should have asked, I should have asked.
So you were there, but you kind of were like, okay, I like it.
Yeah. I thought, let me come back to it. Let me just have a full walk around and then I'll go around.
Yeah.
But no, sometimes you just have to jump in straight away, ask the price and, tell them to, which is what the other dealer did. They went straight at it. And it was the best piece at that show in terms of value for money. But I've just remembered something now. This was my biggest regret. And I don't blame myself for it. And I won't say exactly what it was, but it was a piece of jewelry. It had pearls within the piece of jewelry. And it was in auction. In auction, it was described as cultured. And when I saw it, I have a really good eye with pearls. I knew immediately that it was natural salt water. And
which is a much more valuable stone.
Yes. And I found them on the day the auction was happening. So I quickly registered, and then, I get into the bidding, and I think the estimate was, under $1,000 or something. And I got to the sort of, I'm trying to remember how much it was. It was a few £1,000s. And then I thought, actually, let me just actually hold off, because on that really small odd chance that it's not, and my instincts are wrong, I'm overpaying for this completely. So let me stop. So I had a reason for stopping. But then later I found out that they were actually natural saltwater pearls. Because I knew the person who'd bought them. So, you have stuff like that and you're like,
And someone who's listening to us, who might think, oh my God, if there was a chance that this was so much better, surely you would have went and looked. But I think what it's important to understand as an antique dealer is that a lot of it is to do with volume. In a way, I think we're professional sifters. So we will sift through thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces, and we'll curate small collections for our clients. And we do all that groundwork for you. And I think that, of course, you could look at all these thousands of pieces, or you can just let us do it, pay us a tiny percentage, and you've got a beautifully curated selection from people who are really tuned into what's in it. I think in a way that's what we do.
That's very true. Yeah, that's actually a good way to put it, I think, is It saves people from shifting through thousands of pieces by going to,
You're going through so many different private sales. You're going to looking at auctions. You're going to private shows. You're going to public shows. There's so many things looking for these pieces. That there's just only so many hours in the day. So you can't go to every sale and have a look at every piece. So you got to go with that instinct sometimes. But your instinct was right on the pearls as well. So that's a good sign. Do you think this is a golden age of appreciation for antique jewelry?
yes, I think it is. More and more people are wanting to add antique jewelry into the jewelry wardrobe. People who've been buying contemporary all their life are now looking for, pieces of antique jewelry to put in their collection. More and more high profile celebrities and notable personalities are buying antique jewelry pieces or wearing them on red carpets or incorporating antique stones within the engagement rings, which then sort of creates a direct impact on what consumers are looking for. So yes, I think there is a golden age at the moment for antique jewelry, and it's a great thing. I think. But actually, also, I think from an international point of view, there's an increased demand in, for example, Asia at the moment. There is such a strong demand for antique jewelry pieces. Even India, I'm having more and more Indian clients actually asking for antique pieces. Recently, I have a client who's looking for an old mine Colombian emerald bead necklace, multi-strand, but particularly they want old mine material, not newly cut and fashioned beads. So they because of that sort of old world charm about them. So from an international point of view as well, there's increased growth from what I'm seeing. So it's a great time to be in the business, I think.
Is there anything that worries you about the current market?
I think it's about what worries me at the moment is the focus on educating the next generation on antique jewelry and jewelry history and how the market will look like in, let's say, 30, 40 years time, when we have will the sort of younger generation be as interested in antique jewelry or not. So the market could change completely because, if people aren't really exposed to jewelry, which is why, again, social media is so important. If people aren't exposed to it, then they won't know about it, they won't appreciate it. So I think that's where social media is doing a good job about exposing, especially, for example, on platforms like TikTok, exposing jewelry history to a sort of a much younger audience. And but that is something that I think concerns me, is the future of the industry in sort of on a more longer time scale.
I mentioned to you last night over dinner the first time I opened the shop, and I just acquired the keys. And I remember I bought all the stock, right? And I was like, I'm in the red here, right? I'm in the red. I'm so far in the red, the black is but a dot on the horizon, right?
Yes, yeah.
And I remember thinking, there's nobody coming in. The first day, I was like, oh my God, this is bad.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But at the end of the day, a Scottish couple came in and bought something. I thought, okay, lo and behold, this will work out. But all the indicators are that antique jewelry are actually becoming more popular, in my opinion. So I can see why that I have that same concern sometimes, but I can because objectively it looks the opposite.
Yes, because at the end of the day, the market depends on how many collectors and buyers there really are. So at the moment, we have a lot of collectors and buyers in their 50s, 60s, 70s who are real seasoned collectors. So it's just about ensuring that these people in their 20s are also starting to add pieces antique pieces into their collections. We've seen that with furniture a lot now. Younger people are really thrifting and, buying vintage wardrobes, chest of drawers, tables, and, maybe repurposing them. People, that's becoming a whole trend. When people are buying, I don't know, their first flat and they're looking for vintage pieces to add, vintage piece of furniture. So I hope that they do the same thing with let's say they're buying someone a gift and they're thinking, oh no, let me look for an antique piece rather than maybe a contemporary piece on this occasion, mixing it up.
Do you think that antique jewelry is accessible to people in their 20s then?
Yes, I think it's more accessible than contemporary. You get more value for your money. If you wanted to buy a 1 carat diamond solitaire and you go to a contemporary jeweler, you're going to be paying more than if you went into an antique jeweler's and were looking for that, 1 carat solitaire. So you're getting more for your money. And I think, you can't go wrong, because I don't think anyone will say no to an antique engagement ring, because it has so much more charm to it. I think when you're gifting someone jewelry and you buy them an antique or vintage piece, you're handing it to them. If it's just, if it's a contemporary piece, it might have a really unusual design. That's where the storytelling comes in. But if it's an antique piece, you can explain to them that it's from this time period. This is a history behind it. It survived this many years. There's more depth to that gift.
The story is inbuilt.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
I think it's more thoughtful in a way as well, because every one is a once-off. So you can't just buy from the latest line or the latest collection, which, by the way, I really appreciate and respect really good artisans and goldsmiths. But I just feel that an antique piece that's well curated and selected just requires a bit more thought. And of course, you'll have to ask more questions, do a bit more research, but it's worth it in the end. And a few quick fire questions. Yellow, gold, or platinum?
At the moment, platinum.
Georgian or Art Deco?
At the moment, Art Deco. I say at the moment, preface, because it will probably change next week.
Statement piece or quiet perfection?
I think at the moment, more leaning towards quiet perfection.
Here's a tricky one, because I know you like both. Mm-hmm. Emerald or sapphire?
Emerald.
One final question. If you could sum up your relationship to jewellery in one word, what would it be?
Chaos. That's it. It's chaos. It's absolute carnage, That's my relationship with jewellery.
Brynder, thank you very much for joining us on Gem Pursuit. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. What's next for you?
Well, next week I'm going to Palma and then Hong Kong. So that'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Not just to see the jewelry, but see all the dealers, and, it's a nice social thing as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And for the rest of the years, there's just more shows, more videos, more dealing.
And if somebody was listening to us today and were really interested in wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
Well, you could, go on Instagram at The Jewel Geek and drop me a message, or you could email me inquiries@thejewelgeek.com. So yeah, whatever your inquiry is, I'll be happy to sort of be in touch. And or if there's anything you want to highlight, I'm always looking for interesting topics or videos to do. So if anyone has any interesting topics that they want to see highlighted on the page, let me know, because...
Yeah, and I can tell we've done some content here yesterday, and it was an absolute pleasure working with you, and we got some great content that will release in the next week or so.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Brynder, we're going to wrap it up there for this episode of
yeah.
Gem Pursuit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a real pleasure, and I'm excited to see this go live.
So to see more of Brynder, follow The Jewel Geek on Instagram. And make sure you're following Gem Pursuit on your podcast app subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram at GemPursuitPod for more behind the scenes content. Experts at Courtfield.ie is the email for any questions. Thanks again to the Jewel Geek for joining us today. Thanks to Colin Weldon for videography and Ross Hannon of Tape Deck for producing the episode. And for me, your host, Matthew Weldon, thanks for joining us. Until the next time, happy hunting.